Great. I have it on silent. I wonder why they did that. Call the meeting to order. Take roll call. Hayden.
Here.
Vernon. Here. Sherry.
Here.
Ben.
Here.
Showtime absent tonight. Would everybody please stand for the pledge of allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to the public. Public comment will be allowed at the mayor's discretion. This is exclusive of items requiring a public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. There are 3 public hearings regarding the budget which have been noticed for tonight. Please make sure your comments are applicable to this public hearing that is open at the time. If you would like to speak about one of the budget items that require a public hearing, please wait to do so until the public hearing is open. This portion of the public comment will be open to any members of the public who wish to speak about the items on the agenda other than the 3 budget items that require a public hearing. As a reminder to the public and city council members alike, the city council and staff will not engage in dialogue or debate with any speaker pertaining to any comments made. Members of the public wishing to speak must keep their comments germane or relevant to the specific item before the council. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor. Remember to state your name and address for the record. If you're online and would like to participate, please type your name in the chat and wait to be recognized before unmuting and speaking. Okay. Go to the consent agenda. I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda as printed and posted.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Ben,
Aye.
Vernon,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Going on to item number 2, open the public hearing, revenue neutral rate. 2024 budget presentation and close public hearing, the revenue rate. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to open the public hearing regarding the 2024 revenue neutral rate for the city of Baszler.
Read this.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Need a second. Yeah. I'll take a vote. Sherry,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Vernon,
Aye.
and Hayden.
Aye.
Motion open. Public hearing open. You want me to read this again about the speaker?
Yes, Mayor. Yes.
Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. City staff will make their presentation regarding the budget items on the agenda first. The presentation will last about 30 minutes. Once staff's presentation is completed, we will hear public comment from those who would like to speak on the item for which the public hearing was noticed. The public hearing that is open currently to hearing regarding the revenue neutral rate. Once public comment is completed on that item, we will close the public hearing. We will then open the next public hearing, which is regarding the 2024 operating budget. Once that public hearing is closed, after hearing all public comment, we will close that public hearing and open the public hearing on the 2023 budget amendments.
Thank you, Mayor. Maddie Waldeck, Assistant City Administrator. It's an honor to be here with everybody this evening to go over the budget items. Next slide, please. This is the budget timeline. This is the 8th public presentation that staff has made regarding the budget. All of these meetings are open to the public and also streamed on our YouTube channel. Next slide. This is a recap of all the information that was put out to the public regarding the budget. As I mentioned earlier, the public meetings that we spoke about earlier were available in person at City Hall, including this evening via Zoom if folks weren't able to attend in person. And then also, if you're able to join via Zoom or in person, we also stream these live on YouTube so you can watch them live or at your leisure after the meeting is concluded. Public meetings are noticed on the city's website. Members of the community are more than welcome and encouraged to go online and sign up for email or text notifications so you can receive an email or text when a public meeting is happening. In the city's e-news, in the city's Basehor Quarterly, on the city's social media pages, and then our public hearings that are required by statute are noticed in either the Leavenworth Times or the Tonganoxie Mirror. And real quick on the city's social media pages, we try really hard to engage with the community on our social media pages. We have a very strong presence on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. So I really encourage folks to follow us on those social media pages. In addition to that, we also are members of 3 private Facebook groups that are managed by members of our community. We'd like to take a moment to thank the admins of those groups for allowing us to be part of that. 2 of those groups, we are allowed to interact with residents directly. And the 3rd group, unfortunately, we're censored and unable to communicate with residents directly in that group, but we're happy to be there nonetheless. Addition to that, we also put all of our budget presentations, not only just on YouTube, but also the actual PowerPoint presentations on the website, thanks to Councilmember Maple's suggestion. That included a line item budget that was published 2 weeks ago and then published again in the packet. Next slide. So as the mayor indicated at the beginning, we have 3 items regarding the budget that require public hearings. First is exceeding the revenue neutral rate for 2024. Second is the 2024 operating budget. Third is the 2023 budget amendments. And the presentations will address all 3 of those items. Next slide. So what is the revenue neutral rate and what is Senate Bill 13? The revenue neutral rate, very simply put, is the mill rate that generates the same amount of property tax dollars in this year as it was in the previous year, given the city's increased and assessed value year over year. So the Leavenworth County Clerk will send us a notification of what that rate is. For 2024 for the city of Basehor, it was 28.918 mills. The mill rate that's included in the proposed budget is 33.873, which is the same mill rate from 2023. In June of this year, the city of Basehor approved resolution 2023-16, approving the intent to exceed revenue neutral rate, and the city complied with all the notification requirements as set out in Senate Bill 13. Next slide, please. This slide goes over just some tax terminology. We include this in every budget presentation that we have. We certainly talk these topics every day, but we want to make sure the public has this information as well. Ad valorem tax is just property tax. The mill rate and the property tax rate we use them synonymously. 1 mill generates about $130,000 in property taxes given our assessed value. And then the tax levy is just the revenue that is generated by applying the mill rate to the assessed value in our community. Next slide. The city of Basehor has several different types of funds, and they're summarized here on the screen. They're also summarized in the budget document itself. We have governmental activity funds, and those are primarily funded by property tax. We have capital project and equipment funds. Those are primarily funded by sales tax. We have enterprise funds. Those are primarily funded by utility charges or fees for service. We have 2 fiduciary funds. Those are funds that are held by the city, but not controlled by the city in any way. And then we have a few special funds, and they have special requirements about the revenues and expenditures within those funds. Next slide. In 2019, the city of Basehor conducted a citizen satisfaction survey. And in that citizen satisfaction survey, the top priorities that were identified by our community were the following: sidewalks and trail connections, walking and biking trails, streets, and park amenities. Since that time, we also updated our comprehensive plan. We had a significant amount of community outreach as a result of that process. And what we found through those survey initiatives is those priorities were affirmed, that community members want more sidewalks and trail connections, walking and biking trails, better streets, and park amenities. The 2024 proposed operating budget does include an additional citizen satisfaction survey to be completed in 2024, so that this governing body has the data needed from the community to establish the budget priorities in each year. Next slide. This is the 2024 budget priorities that were established from the information that we received in the citizen satisfaction survey. And I will go through them one by one, starting on the left. BASER is advancing trails and parks projects. We are a place where we take pride in our community and its safety. BASER is improving, modernizing, and maintaining our roads. BASER is proposing no tax rate increase. BASER is a desirable place to live, work, and grow a business. BASER is continuing to promote fiscal transparency and stewardship. And again, these budget priorities were established by this governing body, given the data analytics that we received through the survey initiatives with our residents. Next slide. This is a breakdown of the mill rate in the city of BASER. For every $1 of property taxes that you pay, about 23 cents goes to the city, 25 cents goes to the county, 41 cents goes to the school district, 1 cent goes to the state, 5 cents goes to the BASER Community Library, and 5 cents goes to Paramount Township Fire District. Next slide. We did some additional data analysis throughout our budget process, and we thought it important to include in tonight's presentation. And I'd like to say thank you to Councilmember Standiford for sending us this information from the Kansas League of Municipalities. There are 3 classes of cities in the state of Kansas: first class, second class, and third class. The city of BASER took formal action in 2022 to remain a city of the third class. There are 503 cities of the third class in the state of Kansas. When we look at those 503 cities of the third class and average their mill rates or the property tax rate, that average is 48.795. BASER's proposed tax rate is 33.873. When we rank those 503 third class cities from highest mill rate to lowest mill rate, so number 1 would be the highest, number 503 would be the lowest. BASER is 339 out of 503. Next slide. We did further analysis of, okay, regardless of class, what about population? There are 12 cities in the state of Kansas that have a population between 6,000 and 8,000. When we average their property tax rates, it's a little over 44 mills. And again, when we rank them from highest mill rate to lowest mill rate, number 1 would be the highest, number 12 would be the lowest. BASER is 10 out of 12, or second from the lowest. Next slide. We got additional information from the Kansas Department of Revenue. When establishing motor vehicle taxes, they look at the average property tax levy in each county, less the general levy for each school. So we got the information for 2023, and for 2023, the average tax levy for Leavenworth County is a little over 106 mills. The average of all 105 counties is 133. Again, when we rank them from highest mill rate to lowest mill rate, number 1 would be the highest, number 105 would be the lowest. Leavenworth County is number 91 out of 105. Next slide. How are property taxes calculated on a house? We first start with the appraised value, and that is set by the Leavenworth County Appraiser's Office. We multiply that by the assessment percentage, and that is set in state statute depending on the property type. We get our assessed value. We then multiply that by the city's mill rate and then divide that by 1,000 to get the city's portion of the tax bill. Next slide. The average home in the city of BASER is appraised at $375,000. When we multiply that by the assessment percentage that is set in state statute for a residential property is 11.5%, we get our assessed value. We then multiply that by the city's proposed mill rate, divide that by the 1,000 to get the city's portion of the tax bill. And again, we've highlighted the mill rate in yellow. Of all the factors in the property tax calculation formula, the city of BASER controls only the item that is highlighted in yellow. Next slide. What are the assessment percentages for tax calculation purposes by property type? So the 3 most property types that we have in the city of BASER are residential properties, commercial properties, and vacant lots. So when we look at those assessment percentages, we have the assessment percentage for residential is at 11.5. Commercial is 25%, so more than double the tax assessment for residential properties, and a vacant lot is 12%. So of the 3 categories that are on their screen, the residential property assessment percentage is the lowest out of the 3. Next slide. We talked a lot through this budget process about the importance of a diversified tax base. What is a diversified tax base and why is it important? A diversified tax base means that we have a good mix of residential commercial, industrial, because when cities are too reliant on one type over the other, they could be susceptible to economic downturns. Certainly, the mortgage crisis in 2008 is a great example of that. COVID-19, another great example of that. Communities, if they were too residential or too commercial, they certainly felt the pressure in either of those scenarios. So cities often seek a variety of those things, a variety of residential, commercial, and industrial. In addition to having more commercial, in addition to the increased assessed value, also sales tax, is also a consideration in that. So businesses could be also bringing in not only more property taxes, but also sales tax as well. Basehor, for all intents and purposes, is classified as a bedroom community. A bedroom community is a community with primarily single-family residential homes with little to no commercial, little to no industrial, little to no multifamily. And statistically, those types of communities often see a limited number of amenities. Also, most folks commute outside to work because there's not a lot of jobs here for people to work inside the community. So amounts of rooftop and also daytime population are a couple things that commercial developers will look at when evaluating on whether or not to come to our community. Next slide. We looked at the percentage of appraised value for commercial properties versus our counterparts. So in the city of Basehor, the percentage of appraised value is a little over 3%. Lansing and Tonganoxie are about double that, and Leavenworth County is about 4 times that. We've also done an analysis of the new commercial development that's happening. We love to see it. We love people building in Basehor, but with a full build out, what is actively under construction will add about 0.5% to that appraised value. So we have a lot of ground to make up, but this governing body is doing a lot to try to bring commercial development to this community. Next slide. The property valuation from 23 to 24 did increase about 17%. About 1/3 of that is due to new homes being built in the area. 2/3 is a combination of increased valuation of existing properties. That includes residential, commercial, and then also our vacant lots. So the increase in estimated property tax collection is about $644,000 from 2023 to 2024. Next slide. So no increase to the tax rate, but our property values have increased. What does that mean for Basehor property owners? We've done an analysis. We got information from the Leavenworth County Appraiser's Office. It means on average, residential properties will pay an estimated additional $12 per month for city taxes, and businesses will pay an additional $83 per month in taxes. We've really talked about 2 scenarios throughout this budget process, a flat mill rate and a 1/4 mill reduction. Just for context, a 1/4 mill reduction would take that number on the screen from 12 to 11 and 83 to 79. Some of the things that were discussed about getting to that 1/4 mill reduction were pausing the hiring of a parks worker, pausing the hiring of a management analyst, maybe not funding the refresh of the citizen satisfaction survey. But the proposed budget includes a flat mill rate of 33.873. Next slide. The city has been really hard at work to try to secure as much grant and external dollars as we can. We're very fortunate to receive an additional $350,000 in grants for improvements at the trails at Basehor City Park. That brings our total amount of grants and external funding to over $17 million. That is about 5 times the amount of property taxes that we collect in a single year. Next slide. This is a breakdown of the capital projects that are happening in 2023 and 2024. We have about $24 million worth of projects happening in the city, but this year and next. And on the left-hand side of that pie chart, you can see the biggest piece of that pie, almost 50%, comes from grants and external dollars. We're really trying to work hard to make sure that when we're pushing projects forward and building in our community, that we're putting our best foot forward to try to get external dollars so that the burden of those projects are not on the backs of the taxpayers of our community. So again, 47% of the estimated $24 million in projects comes from grants and external funding, and that has been awarded to the city through a competitive process. Some of these projects include 155th Street improvements, year one of the 5-year roadway improvement plan. That represents $1.8 million of investments into our roads. That's actually out for bid right now for contractors to submit their bids. And once we have those bids back, we'll put an interactive map on our website so that folks can see if their road is going to be improved, and if so, when. Another is Metro Green Trail, providing trail connectivity to the Civic Campus through Tomahawk Park Phase 2, Civic Campus and all the amenities that are planned with that site, and then the Field of Dreams improvements for year 2. Next slide. Some additional information about the city's grants and external funding is these are very heavily regulated. So we got $350,000 for City Park. We can't say, oh, well, we'd like to take that money and then we'd like to put it at Tomahawk Park. We can't do that. We have to use those funds exactly the manner in which we've applied. So we have to do exactly what we said in the application. We can't take that dollars and apply those to another project. And we're using these dollars mainly for capital projects so that a significant portion of those capital projects are from grants and external funding and not from city property tax dollars or city sales tax dollars. Next slide. Just for some context about what $17 million means to the city of Basehor, this is for informational purposes only and is not intended to demonstrate the city's policy decisions or directions. This is just for informational only. To generate $17 million, the city would have to increase the property tax rate by almost 132 mils. They would have to increase the sales tax rate more than 15.5%. Or we would have to wait and not do any more capital projects and just save until 2037. So we're very proud and honored to be able to represent Basehor on a regional stage and get those external dollars on behalf of our residents. Next slide. This is information about the city's bond ratings and annual audits. I'm sorry that this slide is a little busy, but I promise I'll walk through it as quickly as I can. Just like with our personal credit, the organization has a credit rating as well. The higher up you are on the scale, the higher your credit quality and the lower interest rate that you will pay on loans that you take out. Very similar to our own personal credit. The city has a AA+ bond rating, which is the second highest that you can receive. It is incredibly rare for a city of our size to have a AA+ bond rating. In addition to that, we have cost savings on our interest rates. So for the last 2 bond issuances that we have, because we have a higher than usual credit rating, we're saving almost $75,000 in interest payments because of that. Some of the considerations that they evaluate are growth, management practices, budgetary performance, those sorts of things. And we go through that every time a new debt is issued. They review the city's policies and procedures, they interview the city staff, and then they publish their credit rating. The state has a statute that caps the amount of debt that a city is able to take out, and it's 30% of the city's assessed value. Basehor is under 15%. In the most recent external audit that we underwent, we're required to go on a financial audit of an external auditor each year. We received the highest rate of opinion from that audit agency, and we had 0 deficiencies and 0 material weaknesses. Next slide. We wanted to take a moment to talk to the public about the local ad valorem tax reduction fund. That is a mouthful. So sometimes we say LAVTRF. It is a state statute that is also a mouthful that is designed, that is set in state statute that's designed to provide property tax relief to Kansas residents by way of rebating sales tax dollars back to local cities and counties at a certain percentage. Unfortunately, the state has exempted itself from funding LAVTRF from 2001 to 2024. And they have to do that on an annual basis. So we have sat in on conferences and Zoom meetings, learning more about this, learning how we can get those dollars back for our residents. The Kansas Association of Counties is putting together information. In tonight's agenda packet for consideration is a formal action of this governing body to support the funding of LAVTRF and also to allocate 100% of those dollars back to the property tax relief. So we're really trying to get the state to honor their word and send this tax dollars back to the city so that the city can lower their property tax rate accordingly. Next slide. So what does this mean for the city of Basel if LAVTRF were to be funded? On the left-hand side, you can see a chart. The blue line is what the city receives in sales tax dollars each year from 2013 to 2022. That orange line is what we would have received in LAVTRF funding if it would be funded. On the right is the just breakdown of what that would mean for our residents. So just from 2013 to 2022, that's almost $1.5 million. Next slide. This is a graphic representation of what that would mean in mills given our assessed value year over year. This is not a cumulative mill reduction total. This is a snapshot. So for example, in 2022, if the state would have funded LAVTRF, this governing body would have been able to reduce the mill rate by over 2 mills and provide property tax relief to our residents. But again, because the state has exempted itself and opted out of funding that program, unfortunately, we have not received those dollars, but we will continue to advocate on behalf of our residents to receive that funding. Next slide. So some of the budget highlights for 2024 is a flat mill rate. We went through each line item and really right-sized it. For example, we're growing our professional staff and therefore our reliance on third-party professionals is getting lower and lower. So what you'll see in some of the line items for in the general fund, you'll see that there's a decrease from 23 to 24. And that's because we're getting more, we're building our staff, we're building our professional staff, and we're relying less and less on third-party professionals. We're advancing all of the projects in the capital improvement plan. We're replacing 2 vehicles for the police department. We have contractual maintenance of trails and landscaping of high traffic corridors, mainly 155th Street and the Metro Green Trail. Again, a citizen satisfaction survey that I spoke about earlier, adjustment to the salary schedule at 6% to keep pace with the market, and then funding of the fireworks display for the Basel community volunteers. Next slide. This is a summary of the different funds in the city for the 2024 proposed budget. And again, the line item budget was published 2 weeks ago and then was also included in the agenda packet for this evening's meeting. You'll see that there are some funds that we're using fund balance, and that is intentional. For example, the capital improvement fund with all the capital projects that we have happening, it's a combination of cash reserves, some of that external funding that we spoke about, and then some of the sales tax or property tax, whichever is applicable. Next slide. Also included in tonight's packet is the 2023 budget amendments. This is something that happens on an annual basis. We usually do this in December, but we wanted to include this in the budget process for this year. We thought it was better to include it with the other budget action items. So the budget amendment items are for the solid waste. We had the increases in expenses due to the change in trash collection services. There will be a corresponding increase in fees associated with that to offset. The special drug and alcohol fund, we had an increase in overtime expenses for the school resource officer. The special drug and alcohol fund are sales tax dollars on alcohol sales within city limits. We're very restricted on what we can use those dollars for. So we are very honored to be able to use those dollars to fund the SRO position so that it doesn't rely on the general fund or property tax dollars. And then the third is the general fund of the planned purchase of the acreage just right across the street that we refer to as Basel Town Center. Next slide. So just a summary of the public hearings that the mayor had mentioned earlier. First is resolution 2023-24 to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Second is the resolution 2023-25 to approve the 2024 operating budget. Third, resolution 2023-26 to approve the 2023 budget amendments. And I will just end my presentation by saying this budget process has been an honor, and I really appreciate the mayor's and the city council president and all of our council members' positive feedback, and also all of the engagement from the community. Thank you.
Good job, Maddie. So, okay. Is there anybody that would like to speak on the revenue neutral rate? Yeah. Hello?
Gentlemen.
Okay, yes, sir.
My name is Mike Mendez. I live at 15103 Lakeview Drive. And when you talk about the revenue neutral rate, you're talking about the mills, but the assessments have gone up 13 to 14%, which is going to increase our property tax more than $12 a month. And the city and the school district are responsible for about 70% of the real estate taxes. Now, you talked about a desire to provide affordable income for Baser, but you work with developers to build apartments that will not be assessed for 10 years. You remove land from tax rolls and you introduce excessive liabilities to the city through special projects. Other than the interest payment on a home, the biggest qualifying factor is real estate taxes. So when you look at this, simply the mill rate by itself, saying that you're not going to increase that, it's going to stay the same. Our property taxes are still going to go up based on the assessment of 13 to 14%. And the county did not give you that. The county simply made the assessment on that. We'd like to look at a little more detailed information on the capital improvements that you're going to do before you decide to keep the mill rate the same instead of lowering it to what is a more realistic number. Because we're in a position, it seems like it's an easy thing. We're going to keep the mill levy the same instead of going to the budget and see what's excessive and see where we're trying to be thrift during it. It's kind of short-sighted and a lazy approach to leave the mill levy the same and take the increase that the county assessment that has done. So that Baser requires citizens to review this and replace it, with something a little bit better than the 33% mill rate that you're proposing. If you can't do that job, if you can't look at the budget and the budget line items and reduce or eliminate some of those things and want to take the lazy approach of keeping this mill level the same, then maybe you need to look for other opportunities and resign your positions. If you can't serve the Baser citizens and maintain responsible working and spending habits. First step in a problem is to recognize there is one. The citizens of Baser, Kansas are asking you to do your job, review the budget in a responsible way, eliminate excessive spending, and lower the mill rate. I ask everybody in here to
Sir, your time is up.
talk to their legislators about SCR 1611, which will keep the assessment at 4%. That's in legislation right now.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Scott Hawthorne, I live at 104 157th Street. Several times during the presentation, we heard about this survey. I'd like to see what the percentage of responses versus the population in the city limits would be. And just to vet out what percentage of the responses are dictating your actions for the rest of us, the rest of the citizens. A little bit on the entire proposal that was just presented. For any of the members of the council that don't reside in the city limits of Baser, please let your conscience be your guide and vote if you were paying what we're going to pay. That's all I got.
Anybody else?
I'm Chester Wilson. I live at 817 155th Terrace in Pinehurst Estates. A lot of our HOA members have, talked about just the bind that taxes are putting on. Some of them even to the point of, hey, I may have to sell my house just because the property tax is becoming too high. Now, I built a house, hired a builder, built a house in 2008. Moved away from here in 2018, went to Georgia, came back in 2019. And I think our tax rate the whole time from 08 to 18 was just, houses didn't appreciate that much. Didn't have a quite large growth in it. I now have a house that is worth just a tad more, maybe 30 or 40,000 more than the house that I built in 08. But my taxes since 2019 have more than doubled, from about 3,200 a year to I'm now paying 8,500. And I guess now it'll probably be more, about another 1,000 going into 2024. I'm still actively working and employed, but if I was retired, I might have to seriously consider selling my house and moving out where I'm not in a city limit somewhere. And I think you're going to start losing residents based on that. I think it will become hard for real estate agents to start making that point. I've got several friends that I go to church with who are real estate agents, and they were just shocked when they saw the amount of tax that I was paying. And they couldn't believe it. And they ran some checks on some other properties in the area. Now they mostly sell properties down around Lenexa and Overland Park and stuff. And he just couldn't believe what it was that we have here. And one other realtor that I talked to. So as our first citizen had got up here and said, you really need to think about where you can cut to reduce the levy to help offset maybe some out of control assessments. And then absolutely, we gotta call our state representatives and get Kansas to get a handle on this, because it's ridiculous. Where I moved from in Georgia, my house there now is almost double what I sold it for in 2019. The taxes are not. The taxes are still just a few $100s over that. And it's a town that's got a lot going on. Evans, Georgia, near Augusta, Georgia, Fort Worth. So, things can be done differently than just staying neutral and reaping more benefit, more profit on the higher values. Let the higher values maybe work for the citizens and reduce the levy. Time's up.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay. Bro, and I live at 15393 Pickup Drive in Baser. And gosh, I understand. My husband saw our taxes. We saw our taxes and like, oh crap, this is not nice. But we have a city that we are very proud of, or I hope you all are proud of our city. And it doesn't take a zero budget to make that happen. I've been at council meeting after council meeting after council meeting, and I've listened to those budget presentations. They've worked their tails off. No one is sitting back trying to pad things or do things just for them. I say thank you. I appreciate all of your work. I'm proud of it.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Marcelino Gutierrez. I live over at 1903 Garden Parkway. Been here since 2021. First of all, thank you all. I know what you all do is not easy. It's sometimes you can't please everyone. At the same time, I'm also thankful, but I feel like even though something's good, doesn't mean it can't get better. And when I think about that, we do like to throw around the term Baser Proud a lot. As a Baser resident, I'm not necessarily proud that some of our senior citizens, some people who are living paycheck to paycheck, when we do talk about the city's mill rate, at the same time, we're not paying just the city's mill rate. We're paying all these additional mill rates that we have to pay for. So I think it's important that we are cognizant of that. And y'all are the decision makers. I think it's important that y'all are cognizant of that and ensuring that you're looking out for all of our Baser residents. Some of us can afford this, but some of us can't. And I think sometimes we need to be creative And that may mean saying no to certain things that might be challenging. I gave my wife the same survey when I first moved here on wants and desires and priorities. And after we started looking at what the costs were of some of those wants and priorities, we had to change some of those same wants and priorities. So I know it's a challenging position, but I think there's ways that we can be better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Terry Shoemate. I live at 2916 North 154th Street. I'm not very good at this public speaking. I started my work life at 16 years old. I'm 80 years old now. I've paid my way. I'm retired. It's getting to the point now to where I'm going to have to think about selling my home because I can't afford to live here. Since I've lived here less than 10 years. When I first moved in here and bought my house, it was valued at $121,000. Today, it's valued at $219,000. My house was built in 1946. Every time my valuation on my house goes up, my taxes and everything goes up. And it's getting to the point to where Basher can go to hell here pretty soon because I'm going to be gone.
Anybody else?
Ran the gauntlet to get up here. My name is Carolyn Burnett. I live at 3406 North 154th Street. We moved to Basehor last year and we really like the atmosphere of the town. You know, it has that small town feel. But I understand that we're going through growing pains, right? And people mentioned being seniors on a fixed budget. And I think we're all actually on a fixed budget and we all have those same concerns because we have, you know, we're not getting extravagant raises from employers and things like that. And I know everyone here understands that. And as someone mentioned, we do appreciate the hard work that you're doing. Appreciate the information that's being shared and so many avenues that it's being shared at. One thing I want to just stand up and say that I appreciate your job that you're doing, but again, feel like that necessities versus niceties, we actually need to maybe look at that again. And if one gentleman mentioned that if we knew the cost of some things, maybe our priorities would shift. Because it seems like when I came to a presentation before, the cost of doing a mile of a park was about 60% of a mile on a road. And I thought I'd rather have my road, right? And the surveys were done in 2019 pre-COVID. And I think some people's attitudes and thoughts shifted since then. So I do think a survey in 2024 is definitely needed. And would appreciate the information coming back from that information. So again, I just want to say, I think we do need to take a look at necessities versus niceties for our city because of the roles that we are in and that we are a bedroom community and we don't have the tax base otherwise to support some of these things. I did have a question about the 155th Street capital improvement. From some meeting I attended earlier, I thought that was maybe being refunded from the Leavenworth County because it's some kind of main road or something. So if we could get some additional information on that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Kathy, do we have anybody online?
Steve M., you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes, sir.
You've been never really quiet.
I think it was the radio.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Mulcahy. I live at 16709 Ruby Way here in Basehor. My concern is, again, as was everybody else, the excessive rate. I noticed you're only paying the staff a 6% pay raise, but if they live in this town, they're going to see a 14% minimum increase on their property tax. I find it difficult to believe that we haven't figured out a different metric other than the mill rate for everybody else in the state, when it should be about what are the ability of people to pay. I appreciate the gentleman who is 80 years old. I am 70 years old. We have lived in this town for over 11 years. We like Basehor, but the same issue applies. The number of people that are chased out of bedroom communities because of taxes is phenomenal. I saw it with my grandparents back east. I saw it with my parents back in Arizona. And this town is working on doing exactly the same thing. And our houses are not worth the assessed value today if I tried to sell it for that price. Thank you.
Anybody else, Kathy? No? So close it out.
Can I use the last minute I didn't use before? Is that legal?
Go ahead, sir.
So my comments, I didn't, thank you, Commission, for the, I wouldn't want to have your position. Okay, it's easy to complain, but we don't know everything that's going on. But I do want to make the statement that we are a bedroom community. Most of the residents here came here because of that reason. We don't want a bunch of commercial, industrial stuff. We're not into that. We can drive 5 minutes down the road and get all the industry and all the commercial stuff we want. That's why we came out.
Thank
Thank you for the action, please.
Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to close out the revenue neutral rate public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to close the public hearing regarding the 2024 revenue neutral rate for the city of Basehor.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call for a vote. Aiden?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
You're going to close the
Aye.
hearing now.
This is fine. What? Moving on to item number 3, to open the public hearing for the 2024 proposed operating budget.
Mr. Mayor, I move we open the public hearing regarding the 2024 operating budget for the city of Basehor.
A motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Call for a vote. Vernon?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Meeting is open.
Thank you, Mayor. Our city's comments related to the 2024 operating budget were covered in our presentation. We don't have any additional comments at this time, sir.
Okay. Yeah, anybody that wants to speak on this?
Jeff Body, 1808, 162nd Street. I moved to Basehor just a few years ago. And the first couple of checks I wrote to the county treasurer, I complained, but it wasn't that bad. But last year, everybody in the county went crazy with taxes. 19% increase last year is what Basehor got. And this year it's 17%. And I just don't understand why. And you guys had a lot of information up here about bedroom communities. There's bedroom communities in this area that have much lower mill rates than us, and they're happy to be there. Also, I think this city last year bit off more than they can chew, and they're choking on it now. That's why our taxes are going up. It ain't the assessments, because that's what I can probably sell my house for, what they assess my value was. The point is, though, you don't lower the mill. Like I said, I think you're choking on what you've done. One of your graphs said that 50% of our projects are to be done in the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years. It's coming from outside sources, which are still basically tax dollars. So we're having to fund, the people here are having to fund all that, these projects for the next 4 to 5 years, and it's gonna cost us. And I've heard a lot of talk today about the LABTRF. If the county and all elected officials blame the state, if they started funding that tomorrow, where would they get the money from? From the taxpayers. So it's just a transfer of taxes from one entity to another. Point is, you guys have just went crazy with spending. I think you should have taken all your capital projects and spread them over a few more years. Because this community, it's growing. And I agree with the veteran community comments that you can have a good veteran community with good amenities in it. You guys are wanting it all like now. And it's costing us taxpayers. What else can I get in for you? And I feel like as a citizen, I have very little to say in this process. I can say what I want now, but the paperwork's ready to be signed. I can't come to a council meeting about the budget and engage you all because you every day or every meeting, you say, we're not going to engage in a conversation or debate. So how are we supposed to get that across? We don't. Because if I email you guys, I don't hear back from you very often. If I do, I get a very bluff answer. Some people do send out some information, but I believe when I ask you a question, I expect a hard answer, and I don't always get that. Thanks.
Anybody else? Is there anybody online, Kathy? Nope.
I have. It's Scott Hawthorne, 104, 157th Street. I just want to acknowledge the fact that many citizens I've spoke to just have a bad taste in their mouth with the 1 penny tax proposal. It got voted down. And then shortly after we announced and we publicized the 17 million in grants. But I just think that because the timing and how that was handled, it gives many of us citizens a bad taste in their mouth. But I think maybe we should have talked about the 17 million while we were talking about the 1 penny. It's my opinion.
Anybody else? Kathy, is there anybody online? No. I need a motion to close this open public hearing.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to close the public hearing regarding the 2024 operating budget for the city of Basehor.
The motion to hear second.
I'll second.
Call for a vote. Ben?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Passes 4. Moving on to item number 4, open public hearing for the 2023 budget amendments. Need a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move we open the public hearing regarding the 2023 budget amendments for the city of Basehor.
I have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I take a vote. Vernon?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes 4.
No additional comments, sir.
This probably doesn't change. This, I'm Elaine Bundy. I live in 3121 North 156th Terrace. Who is funding the turnaround up here? Is it us or is it the county?
You can ask that at a different time. This is for an open meeting for the budget, Elaine. So just talk to me.
No. Okay, say yes, no.
Talk to me after the meeting. So nothing else? Need to just close it out then?
If there's nobody wishing to speak, then yes.
Nobody online, Kathy? Okay. I need a motion to close the open public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to close the public hearing regarding the 2023 budget amendments for the city of Basehor.
A motion and a second.
I'll second.
Call for a Vote, Sherry,
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Vernon. Aye. Ben.
Aye.
That's a swirl. Okay, we'll move on to resolution 2023-24 revenue neutral rate.
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any additional comments related to this item. Included in your packet is a resolution for your consideration, authorizing the city of Basel to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate, having held a public hearing regarding the same item. Thank you.
Thank you. Open it up for discussion. Anybody, you got anything to say?
You guys want to start? You know I do.
Yeah, I can start.
Go ahead. Sherry.
I know we started working on this in May and we've spent considerable time, many hours, many weeks, digging into great detail about every aspect of what the city takes care of for the citizens and your dollars. I personally live on a single income and I'm retired, so I very much understand how you feel. Also, I will always respond to your emails and to your phone calls, and I know I interact with some of you. So you're always welcome to reach out to me. One thing I do want to encourage everyone here, because I can tell we have a large group of people very concerned about property taxes. I am also. Mine went up last year. They're going to go up again this year. Is the 4% cap. That just passed the Senate. And that will be going to the House when they convene. If approved, it's going to come to all the citizens of the state of Kansas to be voted on. If you don't know who your representatives at the state level are, you can email me. I will help you get that information, but just FYI. Congressman Jake LaTurner and Senator Beverly Gossage were both in Basel on Thursday, August 17th. There was about 50 constituents from Basel that came to the meeting. It was a great meeting. We talked to those individuals. We talked about property tax. We told them how we want them to vote. And we talked about many other items. Coming up on Saturday, September 16th at the Basel Library from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., Senator Karen Tyson will be in town. She is the chair of the Kansas Senate Taxation Committee. I would encourage you to come to these meetings. I mean, we're literally bringing the individuals here to town, so you don't have to drive to Topeka. You don't have to call Topeka. You have FaceTime with the individuals. So these are just things that have happened recently. And I just wanted to mention that. And then also, I know that our city council is working with Leavenworth County on the ad valorem tax reduction bill, and we want to support that. We'd like to see that money come back to the citizens to lower the mill. It can be used for nothing else, only to lower the mill. And I know in those in-depth presentations, we looked at freezing positions. But I know one of those positions I felt really passionate about personally, and that's the management analyst position, because that position writes grants. And I would sure hate to miss out on that next $17 million. So I really, in my heart, didn't feel like I could axe that position when that's going to be a grant writer to bring more money. And yes, that's our federal tax dollars. I get it. But I'd rather see that money come to Basel than go to Lansing or Bonner Springs or Kansas City, Kansas. I'd rather see those federal dollars here that we've all paid into to help us improve. So that's just some of the few things I wanted to talk to everybody about. And I very much appreciate all of you here. We do listen. I do want to hear what you have to say. And I appreciate the staff. You guys have spent an immense amount of time and detail. All of this information is out there if you really want to dig into the numbers yourself. It's all out there. If you want me to direct you to how to get to it, because I know the websites can be a little confusing, email me, call me. I'm glad to walk you through it step by step. All of our YouTube in-depth discussions where we've spent many hours are out there. You can listen to what we've talked about, cutting, what we've talked about freezing. It's all there. Because we really don't want to hide anything from you. I mean, very honestly, I can say that. And again, I'm a taxpayer also, and I'm retired after 37 years working for the state of Kansas. And Capers doesn't give raises. So I have to live here on what I have. So thank you, everyone.
What did you say was coming, the senator from? You said
Senator Karen Tyson will be here in September. And then we just had a senator and a congressman here last week in town.
And she's gonna be at the library?
She will be, yes.
What time was it?
10 a.m. to 11:30.
And what day is that again? It's
Just a moment. Yeah, September 16th.
Y'all might post that on the guys' social media. I wonder if that might help to get the word out.
We'll talk about that, sure. I know it's on some different locations, but yeah, let's talk about it. So. Thank you.
Vernon?
I'll save mine for last.
Okay.
Right. So as the slides indicated and Sherry talked about, this is the 8th meeting. This is the one that has to be public noticed based on the statute, but we have been talking about this a lot. We've asked staff to look at ways to reduce. We've talked about some of those positions. We've talked about cutting certain line items. It's something that I dug into and spent an hour and a half with Maddie and Leslie. So thanks and sorry again for that on Monday morning. Once the line item was completely available, just trying to go through and figure out where there might be areas. And with a growing city, there's some of these expenses. There's the citizen satisfaction survey that I agree, we want to refresh. We want to figure out what the current priorities are. I want to push for some of those questions to tie it to dollars, right? To see, okay, yes, people want this, but are they willing to pay this amount for it? Right now, with the information we have, I think there is a lot of interest in those trails, the parks, moving those projects forward, leveraging the dollars that we have from outside sources. Yeah, inevitably, they all come from taxpayers' pockets at some place or another, but agree that bring them into the city of Basehor where we can. Again, the continued economic development, we want to be careful with that. We want to be conscious of not overwhelming us, but to minimize or reduce that burden of being a solely bedroom community, I think is an important focus moving forward. And it's hard to get apples to apples because different cities do different things, but I agree that the Basehor rate, if you just look at some of the information presented, it's not ideal, but it's also not the highest out there. And we're trying to balance being a community that has positive amenities, that brings people in. The schools is part of that. We don't control the school mill levy, but that's a part of what this city is proud of, as well as our police and our public safety. And we want to build some of those trails and other amenities as well. So I wish we could cut it, but after looking at a lot of different numbers, I don't see a clear way.
Thank you, Ed.
I really agree with you. And first and foremost, thank you guys so much. I know you guys have spent endless hours since May going through all of this. You know, I know somebody's talked about us being a bedroom community, and we all want to stick and just have the ability to live in these homes and not have to have these taxes increased. I don't want to pay a single more cent for taxes than any of you do. I promise that. But some of the help that we need is through some of these commercial industries, right? We need to start bringing in some of these other commercials, not necessarily industrial or anything major, but some of these others that are at 25% taxes to help start reducing some of that burden from you guys. The sales tax, as far as that 1% sales tax increase, that's for all of those other county residents that come in and utilize our city facilities, and you guys are the ones footing that bill. Right? So if we can put a little bit more into the sales tax, then that's going to help to lighten some of that burden that you guys have. I don't think anybody out here in the audience gives one care about traveling to the Legends. And if you look at what the sales tax is over at the Legends, it's 10+%, right? I mean, we could raise it 2% here and be at where they're at today. Nobody thinks twice about going to Legends to spend money, right? But at the end of the day, we want those tax dollars to try to stay here within the city, not go to Wyandotte County, not go elsewhere to another city. We want those staying here. And as far as the $17 million, that's $17 million in grants. I mean, I know Mr. Body said that that is still your tax dollars and that's a burden, but those tax dollars would have went to KDOT or to Overland Park where they have always gone. You know, we should be patting these guys on the back that $17 million for the first time ever came to Basehor, Kansas, was the largest amount ever presented to a city. So, I mean, these are the things that I look at. And yes, did it cost us $10 million in projects out of $26 million? Yeah, it absolutely did. But you know what? Out of that $26 million, that isn't tax dollars out of your pockets. $17 million is coming from others around the state that's coming to us. So these are all things that absolutely we look at. We have dug through this budget endlessly, and we've done everything that we can. I mean, you look at the numbers when we look at the commercial needed, Basehor sitting at a 3.3% compared to Leavenworth at 13. I mean, look at the tax dollars coming from commercial, and we're at the bottom of the list. Again, I don't think we need to throw a million different commercial businesses within the Basehor, but we need to start offloading a little bit of the burden from you guys onto some of these other commercial industries.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
17 million. Okay. I'm not a person that writes grants. But 10 years ago, I started writing a grant for Basehor. Finally, it came through. You know, that grant we received $7.9 million. 7.9 million of that 17. And then I was asked to assist again with another grant to add my educational experiences and my experiences in living in other cities, and brought in another 5.3 million. Let's do the math. That's 12 million, 13 million. And every time that I represented the city of Basehor, either at the National League of Cities or KLM or MARC, I did that with the express understanding that I know Basehor could not afford to do these projects without getting that funding. So yes, I'm responsible and accountable for bringing that kind of monies into Basehor with the express intent of saying, how can we, or how can I help decrease any kind of tax increase, any kind of mill levy increase? So I know, as people have said, I've worked with this staff for many, many years. And I've worked with this council over the last 4 years in trying to keep things low, trying to bring money in, external dollars. I just ended my chair of the Kansas Surface Transportation Committee. In that committee, I have $36 million that I need to distribute amongst 4 counties, and Leavenworth County was one of those. As has been mentioned, we were successful in getting the largest ever grant for the city of Basehor because of the work that the staff has done, because of the work that I've done, and being able to focus money and direct money to Basehor. I say all that to say this. In the back of my mind, every time I ask for funds, and I know sometimes the staff has said, you're asking for too much. And I'm saying, no, I'm not. I'm not asking for enough, but I asked for the max, and that's what they gave us. So that the road work that we're seeing here, the work that we're seeing in the park, that came from hard work, and I'm not getting paid for doing that, you know, but it came from hard work of just looking at this community and trying to make it better. Getting people out of the streets, keeping people from walking in the ditches. I'm gonna share this piece and I'm gonna leave it alone. One of the things that I had to do when I spoke to the various mayors in Kansas, in Missouri, there's 37 different mayors. I'm at Basehor, small town, and we're competing with them for these dollars. No one came close to getting the kinds of dollars that we or I brought to the city to decrease any kind of potential tax increase. So keeping it at a flat level is the best that I was able to see. But I often ask the staff this, and they might laugh when I say it. Is it possible for us to do all with less? And the answer is we're gonna do all with holding the mill levy flat. That's what I wanted to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll call for a vote on item number 2023-24. I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve resolution 2023-24 revenue neutral rate.
Motion, we have a second.
I second.
Motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Sherry,
Aye.
Vernon,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Hayden, passes 4-0. Moving on to item number 2023-25, 2024 operating budget.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff does not have any additional comments. Included in your packet is a resolution approving the 2024 City of Basehor operating budget as presented. Thank you.
Open it up for discussion. Anybody have any questions for Maddie or anything?
Kathy, would you mind rolling back down so we could look at the items? Thank you. Just a moment.
So while you're looking at that, I had a few comments from the line item review, just highlights that to me showed the effort that staff went to, and with our encouragement again, but that staff went to look at various options. As Maddie noted, we've gotten more efficient with things like legal and planning staff internal instead of relying on contractors for that. There's a cost in staying competitive in the market for quality police officers. That's a high area of top priority and major selling point for the community. Things like insurance, audit services, utilities at the city scale. We're all feeling that at home, but that's hitting the city budget as well. And then one of the examples was a large jump in trash. That contract changes were what they were. And some of that was out of our control, but then the willingness of staff to go and look for alternate options that reduced that increase. Unfortunately, we had to see it, but again, trying to minimize that where we can. And then a growing city with aging infrastructure means some of those capital improvement projects are eventually a necessity. Yeah, maybe we can look at timing, but some of that's going to have to happen. And the AA+ rating on reduces the interest that we have to pay on those. And then finally, I'm looking forward to the LAVTRF item in the agenda to make sure that we can try to hold our state officials accountable.
Well stated. Anybody else have anything? Sherry?
No, sir.
Good job. Okay, I'll call for a motion on the 2023-25 operating budget.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution 2023-25, a resolution approving the 2024 City of Basehor operating budget as authorized by Kansas state law.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second, call for vote. Hayden.
Aye.
Vernon.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Moving on to item number 7, resolution 2023-26, consideration of accepting the 2023 budget amendments.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, city staff covered this in our lengthy presentation. I apologize at the beginning. We do not have any additional comments at this time, sir.
Okay, I'll open up for discussion. Hayden?
That part was pretty
Yes, that part, but yes.
good. Thank you. Good. No, go ahead.
Sherry?
No, I think we've pretty much talked about the items that we need to adjust for the current year. We've spent some detail on them. I know you just presented on it with the detail so that the individuals could see what that was that we were adjusting. So.
Vernon, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay. Call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve resolution 2023-26, a resolution approving budget amendments for certain funds as authorized by Kansas statutes annotated.
The motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Call for a vote. Ben?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Moving on to item number 8, resolution 2023-27, consideration of acceptance of 5-year CIP.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your packet for consideration is the city's 5-year capital improvement plan. Again, that was published with the agenda packet on our website for residents to review. It's a comprehensive look at the next 5 years of capital projects in the city, what the fund performance of the capital funds looks like, what projects are included funded in the budget, what are unfunded at this time, what is the long-term forecast of the fund performance, like I said, and additional information as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding this item.
Anybody have any questions for Matt?
Again, this is the CIP was a good example where it was broken out where those grant dollars are going. So again, really appreciate bringing those in, adjusting some project schedules to accomplish those with lower burden on all of us as citizens. And then appreciate the inclusion of the unfunded projects that we've discussed, just so there's some visibility on that as well.
Yeah. Anybody else? No. Okay, I call for a motion on item 2023-27.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution 2023-27, a resolution accepting the 5-year capital improvement plan CIP for the city of Basel.
A motion to our second.
I'll second.
A motion and second. I'll call for a vote. Hayden.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Vernon.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Moving on to item 2023-28, consideration of acceptance of the 2024 pay plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your packet is a resolution amending the pay plan for 2023, as well as approving the pay plan for 2024. As you're all aware, we underwent a review of some of our positions in the city, and a long-term forecast was provided about possible positions that could be needed over the next 5 years. Just because a position is in this pay plan does not mean that it's funded in the budget. It's just mean that is there and available for when and if that time comes. A great example is a Parks and Rec coordinator. We have a lot of fun events happening in the community, the 4th of July parade, and certainly those events that are happening, that should happen at the Civic Campus once that is open. And we're going to need somebody to organize that and be a resource for the community to make sure that the community is aware of those events that are happening. That's just a small example of an additional position that's included in the pay plan. And then, of course, the 2024 pay plan includes the 3% cost of living adjustment that was allocated in the budget. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions for Maddie?
Just confirm that any increases for current positions are included in the budget that we just approved.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Well, and I know looking through those, I think nationwide, many companies are struggling to hire. And it's always less expensive to keep good quality employees than to go out and recruit and interview and train. And you definitely don't want turnover. I've seen some companies really struggling with that. And then you've really invested a lot of money. So, and I know there's certain positions that are more difficult to hire than others. That's kind of, if you look on our website, we're having a tough time with some of those more entry-level positions to try and get those filled. And I know it can be challenging with the police to try and get individuals on and keep those individuals. And I do appreciate, I know we've got 2 officers here today to see the patrolling in my neighborhood. I appreciate that. And so thank you. So that's all I have on the pay.
Vernon?
I have nothing.
Okay, I'll call for a motion on 2023-28.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve resolution 2023-28, a resolution amending the city of Basel 2023 pay plan and establishing the 2024 pay plan.
Have a motion to a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Sherry.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Vernon.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Moving on, item number 10, ordinance and resolution regarding general obligation bonds, ordinance number 887.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a scheduled debt issuance for capital projects that are happening. This was budgeted in the 2023 budget that was approved last year. We did have the bond sale today. Should have Ben Hart from Baker Tilly on the line. Ben, if you could go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself and present this item to council, we would appreciate that.
Absolutely. If you guys can hear me, the city sold $8.795 million in GO bonds this morning, 10 o'clock auction. It is an online auction. These bonds are amortized over 20 years. 3 bids were received. The low bid was 3.77%. The high bid was 3.97%. Stiefel Nicholas is the low bid at 3.77%. And just for a benchmark, a AAA rate, which is the highest credit rating a city can achieve, yesterday was sold at 3.75%. So the city of Basehor nearly locked in a AAA rate on these bonds this morning. I don't know that you could get a whole lot better. On top of that, a premium was offered, and this is really the buyer of the bonds paid for the right to a higher interest rate in the future, which is a benefit for the city. The city applied for a credit rating, and this is just like, your personal credit rating. A higher credit score, the better credit you have and the better interest rates you get. The city enjoys a AA plus stable rating. The only rating above that is a AAA. The 3 of the comments that are fairly impressive in what we do for a living, we see a lot of these comments, but these are great comments. 1, the AAA plus stable was based on a growing tax base, very strong management with strong financial policies, and very strong budget performance. And budget performance to that end means what you forecast, you're on top of. You're nimble and you have an ability to react to fluctuations in the market. That just goes to the strength of the finance staff and your city administration there in Basehor. So overall, this from us as your municipal advisor was a very successful sale.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. At this time, Mayor, you have 2 actions for your consideration. Ordinance 887 and then resolution 2023-30. And also we'd be happy to answer any questions that this council may have.
On the motion, do we need 2 different separate motions then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
first one. Okay. Open up for discussion. Anybody have any questions for Maddie or Ben?
Sounds like great news on the bid.
Yeah.
Now, I confirmed also this morning as I was reading through providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal and interest. To clarify, I wanted to make sure, so for the public awareness as well, that is baked into what we've already discussed. That is not incremental.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying.
So I need a motion for ordinance number 887.
I can start with the ordinance.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve ordinance number 887, an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of general obligation bonds, series 2023-A of the city of Basehor, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith, and making certain covenants with respect thereto.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I'll take a vote. Vernon.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. I also need a motion for resolution 2023-30.
Just also one comment. Thank you to staff, legal, whoever is making sure we have the proper language to get these all squared away, just like we need it.
Right.
So I would move we approve resolution 2023-30, a resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of general obligation bonds, series 2023-A of the city of Basehor, Kansas, previously authorized by ordinance number 887 of the issuer, making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second, I'll call for a vote. Sherry,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Vernon.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Moving on, item number 11, resolution 2023-31.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your packet for consideration is a resolution of support of the local ad valorem tax reduction fund that we spoke about earlier, and also the dedication of said funds that 100% of any of these LAVTRF funds that would be received from the state would be dedicated and allocated only for property tax relief. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Maddie on that?
Thanks again to the county commission for bringing this to our attention. Fully support it.
Yes, yeah, thank Commissioner
Thanks, Beth.
Smith. And then also just for the individuals that don't come to the meetings all the time. When we have work sessions, we go into great detail about that. So I don't want you to just think we're just up here and quickly voting. We've actually spent detail in the previous 2 weeks during the work session to really dig into a lot of this information. And then at the regular voting sessions, then unless we have a few updates or questions, we can just easily vote. And I believe now what we've changed in the system to kind of move things along is we actually have work sessions and regular voting sessions every 2 weeks. So just for the individuals that are new here today or online that are new and don't watch our discussions and voting, just to kind of help you a little bit with that.
Thanks, Sherry. Anybody else?
Yeah, months ago, I've had the privilege of, I've been serving as the Baser representative for Leavenworth County on the MARC board. And Doug Smith and I, we attend those meetings. I am his alternate in his absence. But I bring this up because months ago, Leavenworth County began to talk about filing a lawsuit to get that monies back to us, because it's monies we've already paid. It's monies that should come back to us. And as Leavenworth County continues to push that, the city of Baser, as of today, we're going to have our resolution as well supporting that. But it's really ironic that it's not just Leavenworth County. The other counties, Wyandotte County, Johnson County, Miami County, are all looking at this same thing in terms of a resolution to try to get those funds that we've already paid to the state back to us. I talked about the National League of Cities. It was mentioned in their summit meeting where we have all the different cities show up when they were here in Kansas City, Missouri this last year. And I had the privilege again of representing this city. And then the Kansas municipalities, I went to their conference as well. They also are pushing to get those funds back to us. So this is not just as my esteemed colleague to my left has said, it's not just something that we just think about. It's stuff that we are we're working with others to ensure that they know that Baser is also saying, give me mine. That's all I have to say.
And to continue on that, not only give me mine, but once we get that we can pass it back on to you. That's really the important part of this, is that we're committing to support this, to try to get these funds back so we are able to give that back to you. I mean, 2.24 mils is basically what's stated as an estimate of what we'd be able to immediately reduce your mills to.
Yeah, I guess just one other question that prompted is, this is our official action. Is there anything formal communication that then goes to either our state reps or the appropriate committee or something?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
Anything else for anybody?
No, sir.
Yeah, I need a motion for resolution 2023-31.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution 2023-31, a resolution of support of the local ad valorem tax reduction fund and dedication of said funds to property tax relief.
A motion or a second?
I'll second.
Enthusiastic second.
Got a couple of seconds. Okay, I'll take a vote. Hayden.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Vernon.
Aye.
Ben.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Okay, moving on, item number 12, city administrator and staff reports. Chief, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. A couple of things to report. We took delivery of 3 replacement patrol vehicles this past week. Very excited about that. That will replace our 3 oldest. I have the deputy chief with us today. He's working with 3 officers on 3 additional grants. I won't say what they are. I don't want to jinx them. And lastly, we did some multi-jurisdictional training with the domestic violence advocates in Leavenworth County that we're often proud of. So good things.
Thank you, Chief. Gene?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Just been working with staff on the year 1 street plan, which Maddie stated earlier is out to bid right now. We're real excited about that. We've also been working on assessing current curbs and sidewalks throughout the city. Be getting with city administrator and Maddie discussing that. As soon as we get through all this heat and get all that mapped out. Working on other current projects with Maria's help on contracts and all that. We are having the pre-construction bid for the lift station Friday of this week. All the contract documentations, all the bonds have been received with notice to proceed Monday, the 28th. So there'll be word to me is they'll be hauling in equipment next week, getting started on all the temporary construction fence, all of that. Today was able to work with the contractor and get the concrete and the ADA domes put in for the VFW cross project. We have received the control cabinets, the transmitters. We're waiting on the poles and the light domes for the flashing signals. Once we get them, we'll build them in about a day, get them stood up the following day, and they'll be active shortly after that. Little Tomahawk Park update. As you know, we've had 2 or 3 work sessions regarding the parking, ADA parking, connectivity to the existing trail. Maddie, if you would assist, because
Yeah, sure. No problem. Just as a reminder, this is an addition to and does not replace the improvements that are planned off of 155th Street. The reason why the parking lot was not constructed in phase 1 is because 155th Street is going to be reconstructed in 2024. We'd have to disturb part of that newly improved parking lot as a result of that project, and therefore increasing the project costs. And this parking lot off of Landauer would not be possible without the generosity of the Creek Ridge Phase 3 Townhomes Association, who donated 2.5 acres to the city so that we can add additional green space and then also have this parking lot. So a special thank you to them and all of their members. And that was approved by unanimous vote of all of their membership.
So put together, Maddie so graciously put together a slideshow. If you'll see on the left was pre-project starting the project with the low bid contractor. Go to the next slide, please. Here's laying out. We did a 104-foot by 21-foot parking lot area with a 4-foot sidewalk on the face of it. Next slide, please. There's the sidewalk. Next slide, please. The concrete pad poured. Next slide. And then the final picture. So you'll notice during our work sessions, Councilman Fields discussed the ADA parking. We'd also discussed in the area to give a little bit wider stall areas for people getting kids in and out. So we have 8 10-foot stalls with 1 ADA accessible, wheelchair accessible stall that's 10 foot with a 4-foot apron. So it's actually 4 foot accessible for a van or side load or anything. The sidewalk connects into the existing trail area. Nobody has to access the street. My staff Monday, we blazed through the heat, got everything backfilled, seeded, erosion mat placed, everything cleaned up, and we opened it up at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Any update on the beaver? Look on guy, isn't he? Crystal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last couple of weeks, I've just attended the Leavenworth County Port Authority meeting, the the development meeting, the Surface Transportation Committee meeting with Councilmember Fields, Highway Transportation Committee meeting. And I think I'm missing one other in there, but you get the drift. Lots of meetings. And also working alongside the Kansas Department of Trails and Parks and Wildlife, excuse me, on the grant that we recently received on how to move forward with that. Also working with Mid-America Regional Council on moving forward with the grant for our downtown Basehor corridor study plan. And then just regular additional duties as assigned.
Thanks, Crystal. Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor. I've just been actively working with Maria and Code Plus staff on the municipal code project. So
Awesome, thank you. Maddie?
I feel like I've talked all night tonight, so I'll make it quick. I would just like to say, it's truly an honor to serve all of you and all of your families. It's an honor to serve this governing body, and it's an honor to work alongside such public servants in this room. So thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Maria, you have anything? You've been quiet tonight. Leslie?
Thank you, Mayor. We are pleased to report that we are at about 90% plan development for the Civic Campus Park improvements. We have shared those plans with Crossland Construction in order to obtain pricing from them in hopes that we'll have competitive pricing and be able to limit the cost of mobilization and perhaps just continue their work that they're completing on City Hall. So stay tuned, more to share, more to come. I just want to say a tremendous thanks to our police department and our municipal services team. It is, as everyone is well aware, it is excessively hot. These are men and women who work outside in extreme temperatures, whether those temperatures are extreme heat, extreme cold, to continue to provide service and deliver, I think, some of the highest quality services to citizens throughout the state of Kansas. And we tell our folks, stay safe, stay hydrated, do what you need to do. And I just appreciate the fact that they choose to continue to serve in what is often a very, very difficult circumstance. So a huge thank you to them. Also, a thanks to Fairmont Township. They have continued to attend our development meetings to talk about process and how can we continue to collaborate, particularly as a growing city. And it's just really encouraging to be able to see that type of partnership in our community. Also, I want to send a shout out to Consolidated Rural Water District number 1. I think they have one of the best general managers also in the county, Mike Fulkerson. Him and his team and their contracted team. I'm sure you have seen them out working their tails off on 155th Street, again, in extreme weather conditions. And the boring work that they're doing is not easy over by Elm Street. That is difficult, very taxing work. It appears all of the trees are going to be saved, which was the goal in doing the boring in that area. And they've been extremely communicative. Their contractor is great, and I just can't say enough positive things. And then I would just like to end on a comment and just, I guess, a basic announcement. One of the important things that this governing body does when it sets policy, and particularly in your budget, that we often don't celebrate, is the work that you do to make sure that you can retain the high quality staff that we have is important. And I just got an email and then a text exchange this morning from a city manager in a neighboring community that is losing employees left and right. They can't recruit employees, they can't keep employees. And one of the reasons why they can't keep them is because of wages. And again, that's not popular. Nobody wants to talk about paying public employees to do work. But the fact is, the labor market is tough, and people can, particularly if they're highly skilled, can get a job just about anywhere. So I'm proud of the fact that I think we've got a great team, and I think they work hard every day. And one of the things that this governing body approved tonight were some adjustments to the current pay plan, and you added the opportunity for us to have a deputy city administrator position. And so I am excited to share with you that starting tomorrow, Maddie Waldeck is your new deputy city administrator. So she has been promoted today. So I can't think of anybody who works harder, who delivers more services, and I'm just very excited. So what a good way to end a very strange summer.
Thank you, Leslie.
Congrats.
City council members report. Hayden?
Nothing else.
Ben?
Nothing
Sherry?
wonderful.
Did Stephanie talk?
No.
Okay. Just a couple things. On August 10th, I attended the Leavenworth County Development Committee meeting. I'm on the board there as we try to look at different things that are happening. One of the big things we talked about, and Crystal can probably even talk about this, is the Panasonic plant that's going in and how that's going to affect Leavenworth County, whether that's going to be housing, childcare, et cetera. So that was one of the big topics. I know the director had just gone out to, I believe, Reno and toured the facility out there and came back with some information. This morning, I did attend the Leavenworth County budget hearing meeting, and I plan to attend the Fairmont Fire budget hearing and also the Basehor Linwood School budget hearings that are all coming up soon. And then just a reminder, anybody interested in property tax, we've got Senator Karen Tyson coming to Basehor Saturday, September 16th. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was a really good announcement and you had some interest. Is there anything we need to do if there are multiple city council members present? From a notification standpoint, or since it's been announced here, as long as we
Yeah,
don't
we'll-
talk city business.
We'll talk about it and figure out if we would anticipate that you'd be talking city business, and if so, we'll make sure it's properly noticed.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks again, Chair.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Vernon?
I'm gonna steal a page from Crystal. I think we've been at most of the same meetings. And I appreciate the staff coming to those meetings when I'm able to be there. One of the meetings was my last day as the Kansas chair of the Transportation Surface Committee, and that was an amazing experience. Basehor was clearly represented, and people know that Basehor has a footprint there. I think back to my 23 years of being here in Basehor. I think back to the last time we had a major road project was right out here in front, and that was in 2007. So at the MARC meeting, I had the pleasure of attending that with the county commissioner. And when it came my turn to talk a little bit about Basehor, I spoke about the fact that we had a groundbreaking for the city hall. Last time we had a city building was this one right here in 1985. Long time. So they applauded us for that. We worked hard to get that land, selling that land for almost 10 years. And finally, we see some dirt moving. The National League of Cities, as I mentioned, I don't do a lot of grant writing, but if I'm called upon to do so, then I get involved. There's $650 billion that the federal government is looking at distributing. Naturally, from what you guys might have heard tonight, I'm going to try and make sure we get some of that for Basehor. The Panasonic issue came up also. I am a board member of the Leavenworth County Port Authority. And they mentioned how Panasonic is having an impact, how people all the way from Florida are calling real estate agents up here in Basehor looking for places to stay. So we're going to have an impact of people living all the way out in DeSoto. I mean, working in DeSoto, living in Basehor, Lansing, Leavenworth. The Port Authority also spoke about, we have a land search committee, and that committee specifically looks for commercial land to buy for commercial products and land to buy for industrial products. And Basehor doesn't seem to quite get there with that. So we're looking at places like Tonganoxie. We're looking at places north of Fort Leavenworth, for our next future industrial park or commercial type area. Those are all things that the city of Basel has been involved with, and you know, with the trust of the city administrator, I've been involved with a lot of that. So it's just amazing to see Basel grow from the year 2000 when I got here to where we're at now. But in 2000, when I got here, we might have had a little bit more than 1,000, maybe 1,500 people. So walking in the streets, huh?
We had more than that.
How many did we have?
We had more than that.
Okay, but not the level that we're at now.
Not what we had
Okay.
now, but we had more than 1,500 or 2,000.
Okay, well, maybe my numbers are off, but it was an awfully small community coming from Denver to here. So seeing people walk in the streets has always been a concern. And so, you know, getting people off the streets is something that we've been trying to work on. So, and that's what I have for my report.
Thank you. Moving on to the mayor's report. Crystal, can you get an update on the golf tournament? Mayor's golf tournament, are we still at 25 teams?
Mayor, we're down to our last, say about 5 teams, so there's still spots for everyone to sign up. The great thing about the tournament, those proceeds go forward with the charities, if not kept here at the city level. And not join us for a fun day, we're down to Mayor's last 5 teams, I'll confirm that number.
All right, thank you. The Saturday, the 26th, we have a shredding event. It's going to be out here in the parking lot. If any of you in there have things you want to shred from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, bring it up boxes. There's no charge at all. It's all done professionally by a shredding company. Bring as much as you want and they'll shred it all there for you free. All you have to do is show your ID that you live in the city of Basel. So feel free to come and take advantage of that. The last thing is this morning, Leslie and I was actually invited to the police breakfast. We got all the policemen were there and police women were there. It was very enjoyable. They started leaving when I said I was going to give a 45-minute speech. So I cut it back down to about 3 minutes. But it was very enjoyable. Chief, I appreciate the invite. It was very, learned a lot from them. So I appreciate it. And please have everybody be safe out there. Need to call for an adjournment. Have a motion?
I move to adjourn this evening.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And before I go on to the work session, I'd like to take a 10-minute break, please.
Thank
you all.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Elaine?
Yes.
You want
Next slide, please. So as everyone on the council is aware, the mayor formed a special committee. And that special committee spent about a year touring different facilities, really exploring our current existing Field of Dreams infrastructure. What are some things that we could do to improve and modernize that facility? But just as a friendly reminder, and again, we had anticipated that maybe more members of the public would stay for the Field of Dreams presentation. But just a quick recap on a little bit of the history of the Field of Dreams facility itself. That facility was built entirely by volunteers. It was originally owned and operated by the Basehor Athletic Association. That property was annexed into the city in 2008, really for the express purpose of being able to decommission lagoons. As you know, that has been and continues to be a strong priority of the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. The city ultimately purchased that property from the Basehor Athletic Association in 2010 for $393,470. And the city has had a contract with National Youth Sports Sanctioning Organization to operate the facility since 2011. Next slide, please. Just as a friendly reminder, there were several recommendations that came to the governing body from the Field of Dreams Special Committee. And that included a reinvestment of capital dollars into that facility over a 2-year period of $500,000. The anticipated improvements included renovated restrooms at the center concourse, renovated restrooms at the soccer and football fields, new bleachers at all fields. You may recall last year we actually removed bleachers from the facility, and we got quite a bit of feedback regarding the removal of the bleachers that were there. Backstop netting at as many of the fields as possible, but really with a primary focus of getting the center concourse to start. And then so those were the capital improvement components. The next piece that we talked about, or that came from the Field of Dreams Special Committee, was really to dig into the operations and come back with a recommendation of operations ongoing to this governing body. And then finally, the special committee recommended that we provide at least a biannual update to the governing body on just different activities that are happening at the Field of Dreams. So this is the second one of the year. Next slide, please. So as mentioned in a prior slide, the city has contracted with, we call it NYSSO, to operate the facility since 2011. The current contract that is in place is actually set to expire in December of 2024. And that was approved in resolution 2019-15. That was, if you recall, towards the end of 2019 is when that new operating agreement for a 5-year period was approved. There are annual fees that the city receives under that current operating agreement. And in 2020, the fees were set to be $40,000. As you may recall, that was COVID. And so this governing body, by way of a separate resolution, worked with Mr. Wiseman to amortize that $40,000 payment over the remaining 4-year period. So that is why you see adjusted fees in years 2021 through 2024. Just as a friendly reminder, the city does require through the operating agreement certain programming activities to occur at our facility. Those activities include youth football, youth baseball, softball, t-ball, soccer, and cheerleading. And we do allow the operator to have tournaments. One of the things that we asked for Mr. Wiseman last year was end of year participation numbers for 2022. So as you can see, spring soccer had about 185 participants. Summer baseball and softball had a total of 450. Fall baseball, 200. Fall football and cheer combined had 175. And fall soccer about 150. We did reach out to Mr. Wiseman to get his year-to-date numbers. Of course, he doesn't have fall numbers yet. We'll ask for those as we get towards the end of season. But spring soccer was 172 participants, so slightly down from last year. Summer baseball and softball is up substantially from prior year. Next slide. As a friendly reminder, Basehor residents, are able to apply regardless of income. So this is not income-based or capped in any way, but Basehor residents are allowed to apply for a rebate of their registration fees. Many of our residents do take advantage of that, and we actually rebate 50% of their registration fees. In 2022, the city rebated $9,442.50 to Basehor residents, and in 2023 year to date, we've rebated $4,665. So we anticipate it to be a similar end of year number. Our capital improvements that have been completed to date, we have completed the renovated restrooms at the center concourse, and there's a picture of those renovated restrooms to the left. I think they are a tremendous enhancement over what was there previously. We have also installed bleachers, and year to date, we've spent $148,520. Our additional capital improvements, we actually, not by choice, ended up needing to invest some resources into a sanitary sewer line improvement. The sanitary sewer line, again, was installed probably a lot of observation by the city. And so we have made significant upgrades to the sanitary sewer line. And as we noted in multiple communications to the governing body, one of the things that really wreaks havoc on a sanitary sewer line is sunflower seeds. And just because the package says flushable wipes, that's a lie. They're not flushable. Please don't flush them. They don't flush. So we did place signage in the restrooms, and we're hoping that that will help. Next slide. We do have scheduled improvements in 2024. And again, a tremendous thank you to the governing body for your approval of the budget this evening. That included these improvements that we're going to talk about. But that will, for 2024, we will finish out bleachers for the remaining fields that did not have bleachers installed this year. We will complete the upgraded restrooms at the soccer and football fields. We will start installing backstop netting actually this year, and then continue with whatever we're not able to complete this year based on available funding in 2024, but we need fall season to be complete. So timing is really critical. So again, there's no formal action required by the governing body to continue those improvements. We did ask for community feedback in 2022. So this is very important to note. This is pre any of the improvements that have happened at the field, and so this is also not new information. This is information that we shared with you during the special committee report. But we asked users of the facility to tell us, how are we doing? What do they think about the quality of the facility? And as you can see, there are some numbers that are not particularly complimentary. Only 43% of folks said that they thought our facilities were average. 39% said poor, and 10% actually said very poor, so that we weren't trending in the right direction. Next slide. We did send out a refresh of basically those same questions to over 550 participants. We have received over 101 responses. And next slide. We are extremely pleased to report that we went from having 0% very good previously to 13%. I don't recall what our good number was before, but well, there it is. It's right there, 8%. We're up to 41%, again, trending in the right direction. Average is saying 38%, and only 8% are saying that our facility is either poor or very poor. So again, I think the community, the people using these facilities are really recognizing the improvements that have been made. Next slide. So what's next? The short answer is beyond 2024, we'll start looking at the 2025 budget about what resources we can continue to allocate to the Field of Dreams. As we know, one of the funding sources that would have been able to continue to make improvements at the Field of Dreams was the 1% sales tax. That was not approved. So we're going to have to find those, any additional improvements beyond 2024, we're going to have to find those dollars somewhere. But we are not surprised by the results of what the next priority item is. So next slide. I'm sorry, go back a slide. I forgot we didn't put that. Sorry. No, you can, yep, that one. So the next highest ranked priority is the exact same as it was in the 2022 survey, which was the parking lot. So folks are saying, when's the parking lot coming? As you know, parking lots are not inexpensive, and we get a lot of feedback just about how people get into the facility and out of the facility, and they don't particularly enjoy the gravel. So again, that'll be something that we'll continue to explore when we get to the 2025 budget, which I'm excited to share will start in October. Kidding. We'll take the rest of 2023 off, I promise. All right, next slide. And then finally, kind of next step. So one of the things that the 2022 special committee recommended was really a review of the operations of the facility. One of the things that we were exploring was whether or not it would be cost efficient to potentially create a Parks and Recreation department and run these operations in-house. The short answer is no, it is not. In order to stand up an entire department, in order to have enough staff to maintenance a facility, to program a facility, to have the expertise to run tournaments and do all of the vending, and it's simply not cost efficient. We don't have a revenue stream that supports Field of Dreams exclusively. But with that said, we also get a lot of feedback regarding the operations of the current facility, and we hear that, and I'm sure you hear that. And so staff is recommending, of course, with the consensus of the governing body, that we actually issue a formal RFQ or request for qualifications to the public to solicit for qualified groups to operate and manage the facility beginning January 1st, 2025. Of course, the current provider would be eligible to participate in that process, but we think it's probably time. It's been many years, and it's time to explore what other opportunities exist, if there are any. So that's staff recommendation, and I think that's the end of our slides.
Could I ask a question?
Of course.
Is it very common for cities, say our size, even larger maybe, to outsource that there are other, individuals that run the sports facilities?
I don't know that I would say that it's common.
Okay.
It's not unheard of. So the city of, and it's not in Kansas, but the city of Greenwood, Missouri is actually outsourcing all of its athletic programming for its baseball facility specifically.
Okay.
And we have actually received some interest potentially in the operator that's operating Greenwood's facility, potentially in operating ours. Greenwood is a similar sized community.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question. I was gonna ask if, a year out, is there any risk of upsetting the current arrangement by putting that out to bid, or probably depends more on the award timing to be closer to the end date of fall programming?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that the current agreement is currently structured, it anticipates that the operator would run through fall sports programming. If for some reason the operator were to provide notice that he wanted to terminate that agreement, there is a notice period. There's also a termination clause for the city as well. My sincere hope is that even if this operator were not selected to continue in 2025 and beyond, that fiscally it would make sense for that operator to see through their current contract.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is there anything that's held up the netting? I see we've got bleachers in the restroom. So has there been like an order backlog, or is it just normal that we're going into fall then with the netting?
Yeah, season of play is really, so one of the things that was really important is that that is how that operator makes money at the facility. And part of our operating agreement is the exclusive use of those fields. So taking fields away from their ability to program would be problematic. So we wanted to make sure that we were timing those improvements in a way where his fields are open and playable.
Okay.
As you can see, his had a very strong summer season, so we would not wanted to take away any of his baseball fields.
Okay. Yeah, it looked like it had gone up by like 200
Yeah,
participants.
it's
which is
significant.
wonderful.
It is.
That's
good to
bringing
see.
in a lot of people from all over this, well, not just the state, but the Midwest, I assume, because I think there's people from out of state that come in
Agreed.
to those games. So we did not get quite as big a response on the second survey.
I think we'll continue to receive responses. I mean,
Okay.
those responses came in like in a matter of 4 days. I mean, it
Oh,
was like almost
okay.
immediate. It was a very quick turnaround. So as we continue to receive more responses, we'll provide updates on that as well.
Yeah, because is there anything problematic popping up that seems to be a common thread that like, because I was on the Field of Dreams committee, and so I'm just curious if there's anything that I need to be thinking about as we continue to meet.
I would say it's, the comments have been a nice balance of recognizing the improvements that have been made, recognizing there's still a way to go, a ways to go for improvement. The comments that are coming in certainly talk about that parking lot and the parking congestion. And then we are hearing a lot of, although not asked, we are receiving quite a bit of feedback about operations.
Okay. Yeah.
And to your earlier question, Councilmember Sandiford, it is a little unique for a city to acquire a facility that is a athletic facility without having any kind of park and recreation presence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, many cities have a park and recreation presence and then do like a pro forma and then figure out what it would take to run and operate a facility and then build one.
Yeah.
Or they already have a department and then they do a pro forma and say, okay, it makes sense for us to either accept or purchase this already existing facility. I've never seen a community that's acquired a facility and didn't have a plan for operating it or have staff to do it. So we're a little behind the curve in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious, so thank you.
Vernon, you have anything?
I have nothing.
I'll hold my comments for later.
Yeah.
You have anything else? I'm good. Thank you, Leslie.
So unless the council would like this to come back for formal action, I think we could probably just receive consensus from you to work with the city attorney on developing an RFQ to solicit proposals potentially from an operator. Of course, we would provide communication to the existing operator as well, but I don't anticipate that that would come as a surprise. But this governing body had talked about whether or not it was prudent to put this out for bid in 2019 as well. And so I think it's just about open communication.
So you're good with it? You good?
Yeah,
You guys are good?
I am.
So you have the consensus.
That's all I have. Thank you.
And I believe that's all we have.
That's all that we have on this agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn the work session.
All second.
Second, got a motion, second, everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.